You find when you pursue a task in a certain manner for long enough, you find you become far too comfortable for the industry you're in. And it takes a little shaking up at times to bring some vivacity and vibrancy back into your craft. AUDEZE started with the LCD-2 all the way back in 2009, and their latest flagship, the LCD-4, was produced in 2015. This has given this company a 7-year leeway for the latest flagship in their lineup to go back to the drawing board, re-envision their dream, and attempt to bring something world-class to the table. And we owe them the time they require. And quite honestly, I think we owe them the courtesy of taking a look at their latest offering in the Summit Tier Flagship category of headphones, their new LCD-5. Let's take a look, shall we? This is the latest addition to the LCD family, the LCD-5. At $4,500, this is truly up there in the Summit tier of headphones. This beautiful Pelican case is provided to us like their LCD-4 and LCD-3 lines. This is the LCD-5 itself. We shall place this here gently, and we will come to this momentarily. Take the card out, place that there, phone can go over there. Accessories, which we will investigate momentarily. Beautiful metal light case. What's really special about this, actually is really good, is that it's a soft landing handle. It doesn't go smack, but what I wish they could have done at least is when you lift this expensive metal box lid, to at least have it sustain its position here. But if you're not careful, it will do that. And you don't want to do that to the edge of your beautiful headphones at $4,000. Let's dispense with this case. Before bringing the headphones into frame and taking a tour, let's look at some of the accessories that's provided. Obviously a white glove treatment. Nya. We get a pair of keys to lock grubby kids' hands away from your beautiful headphones. We get what do we get? We get a card with your serial number and AUDEZE signature of obviously authenticity and the person that signed this off after the inspection period. Obviously, these headphones are all manufactured in California in the United States, and they are all assembled obviously in their workshop over there, and everything gets tested before it gets sent out. This OCC cable, I can't do this with a glove. Let's dispense with these white gloves. We get in the usual AUDEZE style of a beautiful braided 6 feet cable, maybe slightly longer actually. It doesn't keep its shape. I've always said AUDEZE cables are pretty damn special actually for a manufacturer cable that is provided with the headphones themselves. You got a 6.3 standard, and I think you can upgrade to a balanced, which you really should with these headphones. We will get onto why that is momentarily, but you really should. Mini XLR, so third-party cables, is very easy to replace, obviously. Now, let's take a tour of the headphones themselves, because there is so much to say as we get rid of the little sponge that separates the planar drivers. This headphone is a culmination of everything AUDEZE have learned in the last 13 years or so. It's a departure from old tradition. It is honestly a work of art. They have truly gone back to the drawing board to really inspect their philosophy, their design style, and to actually make something better. And they have truly succeeded, and I commend them for that. This headphone is created out of aluminium, acetate, and magnesium. It only weighs 420 grams. It's ergonomically beautiful. As we look at this headband, it's very much reminiscent of the CMA styling and design. It literally feels like AUDEZE and CMA had a baby together, and this beauty was the love child of those two companies. It's kind of amazing. Then we get the usual AUDEZE leather headband. Oh yeah, it's definitely leather. This smells like Italian expensive leather as well. These rods, where AUDEZE previously was a freaking nightmare due to its weight and adjustability on the head or even off the head, this, oh no, this is how you do. This is how you do this. This is how you create an adjustable arm. So ergonomically well designed. Absolutely fantastic. Oh yeah. Now these cups, as we swivel down the rods, rotate 180 degrees. So these headphones are very small profile and they can lay flat like so. Honestly, if you're going to design a pair of headphones that is supposed to be a headphone and not a work of art like the CMA Empyrean is, or like the work of art that a ZMF headphone is, but an actual headphone. I want a headphone that looks like a headphone, feels like a headphone, and yet it's the Ferrari of all headphones. You come to the LCD-5. Now look at these beautiful grills. This is sort of reminiscent of the old AUDEZE tradition, but it feels more premium. It feels glossy without feeling tacky. This is just absolutely breathtaking. As we drop to the bottom of the headphones, we have the mini XLR connections. They're not deep set, so you can actually replace cables for this very, very easily, which I have done because I have been using these headphones on a variety of equipment, which we will get onto, such as the IFI Go Blue for walking around the house when I'm doing admin work and stuff like that. Now this beautiful beauty cable is from Double Helix. This is a 4-core silver cable. It's designed for the desk and for on the go. It's ultra light, Pentacon connection, mini XLR, and this was provided to us via Pete for this purpose of this headphone exclusively, actually, so that I could use it on the go, because while this headphone has been here, it's been here for over 2 months now, I think. I put the order through back in December, but it took a while for it to arrive. We've put about 200 hours on this, so the experience for this headphone is truly broken in. The pads have broken in, the drivers have broken in. I've had the opportunity to put it on some of the best industry amplifiers and DACs for headphones exclusively. And then we come to this beautiful angled, newly designed leather pads. These are wedged, these are angled, and there is a specific purpose for this. This is basically to create an internal studio room for the drivers. Basically, this is your housing. This is the room. This is where you're placing your speakers. And we will get on to the specification section momentarily and explore why they've designed the cups like this. These cups, again, are non-removable. Very sad about this. This is another glue situation with AUDEZE. They state it creates a tighter seal, a better seal for bass response. There is no dislodging between the cups and the leather pads, and I don't agree with this because Focal, the Stellias for example, are a clip mechanism. The quads up there are a clip mechanism. CMA does this weird magnetic structure where the magnets from the driver are holding the pads in place, and there's absolutely no issue with that. Also, what you've got to remember is the tuning. A lot of the tuning, especially for the LCD-5, comes from these beautiful leather pads, so changing them will be a detriment, most likely. I am not going to tear these pads off. I've done it with other AUDEZEs in the past. I am not going to do it here. Not in a million years. These are my beautiful luxury. Oh my goodness. Have I gushed enough about this? There has been some issues which we'll get onto in the caveat section about manufacturing and stuff, which we'll explore. But this one, for example, does have that too. Look, I am not impressed with that. All the other sides, all of these clips are tight in place. Everything moves beautifully, as obviously I stated. You get a full 180-degree swivel, like so. and obviously it lays flat and it comes backwards and forwards. But this, on this side, just this one, the screw is loose, and I don't know how that got past inspection. AUDEZE have already reached out to me and said please send it in once the review's done so that we can fix it for you. I'm a bit scared. I hope they won't replace my headphone because these have had 200 hours on the drivers and I don't want to go through the freaking break-in min period again. It was too long. As you can see, every single part of this beautiful headphone has been redesigned and re-engineered. AUDEZE headphones, some of the best planars in the industry, are synonymous with their quality. We know this. But what most people actually find difficult with their headphones is the weight. Most of their headphones exceed over 600 grams. Some of them exceeding 700 grams, the original LCD-4 and the LCD-XC 750 grams, and you feel it. I've had many AUDEZEs in the past. In fact, I've gone through their entire lineup, but none of them have stuck around for that purpose exclusively. They sound great, they feel comfortable, they're well designed, they're not ergonomic or comfortable in the slightest for long periods. So they gathered dust and they had to go. Very, very glad to say the LCD-5 has broken that tradition. What they have achieved, they have learned, and they have taken in from the community has got to be admired. In my situation, every single complaint I've had has been addressed via the LCD-5. $500 more expensive from the $4,000 LCD-4, I'm happy to pay it. I don't care. This is a prohibitively difficult headphone for most people to afford. I know this, but at least go to a showroom to hear it. Second of all, these headphones are notoriously difficult to drive, which will bring us to the specification. Let's discuss. These are a planar headphone, obviously, as we stated. They use their fluxor magnet array. Their phaser patented design is used for the waveguides, and a new parallel force voice coil is implemented in the LCD-5. This headphone is 14 ohms. Yes, you're not mistaken, 14 ohms. Basically like an IEM, yet the sensitivity is 90 dB. So take that into consideration. These are difficult to drive. These are complicated to drive. Not as bad as the Sesvara up there. The Sesvara up there really does actually sound utterly different when you put it on different equipment, and you don't get a full Sesvara effect until you go into the upper tier of the chains like you have it behind me. LCD-5, you can get wonderful performance, but to get the perfect performance the way I've been reviewing these, dig deep in your pockets, mate, because you've already spent $4,500. Be ready to spend another 15 minimum. These weigh 420 grams, obviously like we stated, carbon fiber, aluminium, magnesium and acetate is the construction. These pads have been designed in this wedged form and this sloping manner. So if I put it down like this, it's to detract from reflections when interacting with the ear, to eliminate resonances, and to provide a better, more clear signal to the ear canal. The neodymium N50 magnets have been used again on this, obviously, but they're much, much lighter, and the drivers have a one-sided magnet, I believe like the LCD-4Z previously. Most of their other LCD headphones have a dual-sided magnet, but this really does reduce the weight. I mean, this is 1/3 lighter than the LCD-4, so without any compromises. And I have heard the LCD-4 numerous times. This blows it out of the water. I've heard comments online about the LCD-5 being not as good as the LCD-4. No, you're wrong. It's down to the equipment you're using, which we will discuss in the equipment section, because it makes a huge difference. So that's the specifications and an overall view of the headphones. All that's great. All the new patented technology is fantastic. All the new discoveries and R&D is wonderful. Fine. Some of the caveats of the build quality is a bit irritating. Obviously, it's a $4,500 headphone. It should have been a bit more looked after the way CMA does. I've never had a problem with a CMA product because they inspect every inch of it before it goes out the door. This should have had the same love and attention, because originally in January there were problems with the connectors coming loose. They've had problems. It's a brand new manufacturing process and they've had problems, most definitely. So bear that in mind. But I think they're kind of working out the kinks. So and AUDEZE customer service is wonderful. The boys over there are really nice to talk to and they will help you tremendously. As soon as I said about this headphone, they said as soon as the review's done, send it in so we can repair it. So I don't mind that. It's an inconvenience, but I don't mind it. At least the customer service is nice. They're nice to talk to. There have been companies that, I don't want to throw any shades, but there are companies out there that are really not nice to talk to. So, okay, comfortable. Let's talk about the sound. The LCD-5 provides a neutral yet slightly dark overtones, the way the ZMF Atrium does, but more brighter in the treble region. So it feels like every instrument is on stage and the house lights have been dimmed, but every instrument, every single element of the sound within this stage is under a soft white spotlight, like your favorite actor on stage, like your favorite film with that soft white glowing light, as if they're lit within. That is the characteristics of the sound that comes across to us from these drivers. These headphones might be legitimately some of the most transparent, high-resolution drivers I have come across. And I've got Sesvaras up there. I have heard the AUDEZE Carbon electrostatics. I've heard the Stax 009S. This has been a journey. I hated this headphone when it first landed. Physically, sonically, I hated them. And over time, I have come to love them and admire them and appreciate them. Maybe this was down to burn-in, maybe this was down to synergy, or maybe this was all of the above. And these pads needed breaking in. They were rather stiff originally. Now they are softening up. This is a completely different design, obviously, this pad's. What you've got to remember, it's a completely different shape, completely different manufacturing, and the edges of the pad is very narrow. Like this, it's like a knife's edge, except this bit where it's wide a little bit, where it goes behind the ear here. This is really narrow. So when it's stiff, it felt a bit hard, and the clamp is quite hard on this headphone originally. But now, because they're soft, very little surface area touches the surrounding of your ear, which makes sealing extraordinarily easy for any head shape once the pads break their stiffness. And this characteristic has helped with the refining of the sound. And that's what we're supposed to be discussing. So envision this stage, soft, dark background, illuminated by soft white spotlights. The way in the theater we use spotlights to highlight somebody or an object is what the LCD-5 frequency response achieves. The drivers are so clear, it's shocking. Vocals are so vivid and so present. It's like looking through a glass. Now, I've said this a lot about Sesvaras, but tuning on LCD-5, I prefer over Sesvaras. Yeah, I said it. Sesvaras are neutral bright. I'm into more of the dark background, lush mids territory. Are these as good as Sesvaras on the best chain I have here? The HoloAudio-Serene, the Chord-DAVE, the Chord-M scaler, the Ferrum-Stack OOR. A review for every single one of those will be coming shortly. That is a $25,000 chain. If we include the interconnects from double helix, we're looking close to $30,000 for the setup this headphone has been run on. and it has blown my mind. It has given me as much pleasure as hearing the Zeospantera for the very first time last year, before the launch of the channel. These headphones are absolutely exceptional. There is a lot to discuss today. This video is going to be longer than usual. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, because now, before we go ahead with the frequency response and equipment breakdown, let me paint you a picture. You have been invited to a place, but you don't know which aspects of this invitation should you accept. So your limousine has arrived, you've gotten out of the car, you've climbed up the mansion steps, and you're in the atrium. 2 sweeping marble staircases go left and right. On the left, in white light, with an arrow pointing that way, claims Zeospantera. You have no idea what this means. And on the right, you have beautiful soft white light indicating LCD-5. You have no idea what this means. First of all, you go, okay, I'm just going to look in. I want to see what these mean. You walk up the marble staircase, walk down the beautiful carpet-laden, soft-treading carpet of that corridor. You come to the double doors and you sweep open, and the soundscape of Zeospanteras can be described like this. You are at a bar setting. Colors are very neutral. Beautiful white chandeliers in the sky. Everything's lit up very beautifully. Every placement of cutlery, tableware, people, dresses is laid out perfectly. It's as if every shirt, t-shirt and jumper that's worn by these people is creased beautifully, as if they just literally been to the dry cleaners and now they're sitting down. Everything's pristine. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. The chicken is perfect. The glass of wine is wonderful. And if there is a spillage on the table, it will show up like an eyesore. And that's the characteristics of a Zeospantera. It's timbrally very correct. It's very down the middle. There are no gimmicks. Everything is how it's supposed to be. Just enough salt, not too much. Just enough spices, not overloading you. Just enough conversation, but no yelling. Just enough laughter to be cordial, but not to show hilarity. Just enough anger in a conversation, but not enough to disrupt the party. When you're calling for a drink, that drink comes in time, and it's set while you're pausing in your conversation. Sometimes you feel a little uncomfortable, and other times you're delighted, because nothing's out of place, and everything's effortless. So you run out of these double doors, down the stairs, take a big deep breath, run up the marble staircase. Here, the windows are not shuttered. The beautiful spring sunlight comes in. You can see the light, everything has been freshly painted. The carpet is brand new. You can smell the wood of the door because it's just been set in place. You walk into the same bar that feels like the same type of bar, but it's smaller. You can tell that everything is in place exactly the way it was downstairs for Zeospantera, but in the LCD-5 room, everything has an edge. The knife is a little sharper than intended. The cloth for the table is freshly washed as if it's literally popping off the table. Some people are talking quite loudly over there, but their hilarity is very loud, but not enough to disrupt. You call for a glass of whiskey, a shot of whiskey that will cost you $5,000. You're anticipating it, but it arrives when you're laughing really hard at somebody's joke in front of you. Everything is overly emphasized to show its brilliance. The energy is a little bit more than just right. The detail is a lot more than sometimes you're comfortable with. but not enough to be uncomfortable, or for you to say, okay, this is too much. When you look at the mirror across the room, you can see the pores in your skin. That's how clean that mirror is. These are the sound characteristics of the LCD-5. Everything is ultra high resolution, ultra clean. The way I would describe it is if you're looking into a black silvery mirror, there's this sheen to everything. A lot of reviewers might not like this. I think it's an enhancement of sound. That illumination that comes from the sound of every instrument is just ridiculously high. So let's compare and contrast some tracks with the LCD-5 frequency response. I've been going through the John Williams discography this morning, and the first track that popped up was Star Wars, The Imperial March. Now I've heard this many times. I've seen those films many times. But you don't realize how much nuance there is in that track. From the quietest of the plucking of strings to the most authoritative string stroke or reverberation from a wind instrument. Every single element of the sound undulates and pulsates so that it's not static. As the bow is going through up and down the board of the double bass, you not only hear the resonances of the sub-bass category or the edge of attack as the bow strikes that string, but every element of the sound seems to be shimmering forward and back here. Akin to the Sesvaras, the bass response of that specific wind instrument resonating in the cavity of the body resides exactly where the instrument is, for example, right here. It never bleeds into the saxophone or clarinet that's right next to it. This has more bass here, resonates here, compared to the high notes of the saxophone here. And they don't spill over. Every instrument is positionally put in place ultra correctly, like a laser's edge. Every nuance of sound is illuminated as if with a white light, so it's highlighted within the stage. Spatial presentation of this track, the layering, one instrument in front of another, in front of another, in front of another, or side to side, is beautifully laid out at angles, depth-wise, width-wise, and height-wise. The stage on this headphone depends on the equipment you use, but most of the time, it's intimate, but very well placed. All of these findings have been on the DAVE, M-Scaler, Serene, and AUDEZE, the best chain for the LCD-5. I would take it over the May, AHB2, and Serene. Because when it needs to be sweet, it's sweet sounding. When it needs to be warm, it's warm sounding. When it needs to be smooth, it's smooth sounding. When it needs to be impactful, it kicks you in the face. When it needs to give you the rumble of the sub-bass from 30 Hz and below, it provides. The next track that we came across was Harry Potter's theme song. Now, I've seen these films many times. I've heard this track live and off recordings many times. At the beginning, we have some xylophone with some reverb right there. And because of the expansive nature of Dave's DAC, it opens up the stage more than any other DAC I've used, including the May. This xylophone is overlaid by this beautiful resonances of the reverb that shimmers across the stage like this. But it's small and it's right there. And then the strings come in on the left. They do not mix, they do not overpower, and they do not lose any transients and any form of coherency between the two. And as the big wind instruments kick in, the stage goes from this small like this, opening up like this. The tonal balance of this headphone is absolutely exceptional. It's that beautiful, dark, lush mids, smooth treble on the right equipment characteristic. Let's compare this LCD-5 to some other headphones now. The closest brethren to this headphone's sound signature is the Atrium, is the Diana V2, and to a certain point, the Focal Stellia. But this Focal Stellia's got this V-taper, this doesn't have that. What we find is that sub-bass on that chain, because I've run all of these headphones on that chain, for sheer amount I would give to the Atrium. But for clarity, resolution and detail and textural information, LCD-5 takes it, and it's a couple of classes ahead of it. Punch is insane on a Stellia. Punch is insane. Absolutely incredible on a ZMF Atrium. Surprisingly so. But LCD-5 takes it on that setup. And Atrium hits hard. It's easier for LCD-5 to get this kind of performance than a Sasvara would. And does it have more punch than a Sasvara on that specific chain too? Yes, it does, and it actually takes it. But if you put the same chain, except through the OOR, but on the AHB2, Sasvara takes it because of the overhead of that amplifier. It's 100 watt, I believe, and when you're running a monoblock, it's like 400 freaking watts per channel or something insane like that anyway. And not only that, the power supply, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And the punch and the depth of Sasvara really comes into its own. But I would not say that LCD-5 is far behind. When you put it on this specific chain I've mentioned, this really does absolutely skyrocket in regards to its performance. So much so that if my Sasvara was to leave today, I don't think I would miss it because of the LCD-5 running on that chain. I'm reaching out for a DAVE for that chain, so I can have one for the channel. This headphone has made me go for a DAVE. Mid-range, it's a battle between Atrium and LCD-5. It takes it over the Stellia. Stellia's got that V-taper and it's a bit more laid back. No, lusciousness, I would give a little bit more to the Atrium. Resolution and coherency from the lower mids to the mid-mids to the upper mids, tonal balance, I will give it to the LCD-5 on that chain, because there is a little discourse in Atrium in the upper mid-range region where a lot of instruments together have problems resolving. For example, like the Pirates of the Caribbean live track from Hans Zimmer, it does get a little convoluted in the crescendo. On the LCD-5, it resolves it absolutely perfectly. When we climb up to the lower treble, mid treble and upper treble, the extension on the LCD-5 exceeds Atrium by quite a lot. This is Sasvara levels of extension, I would say, which is more pleasing. On the right chain, both of them on the right chain, holy hell do they trade blows, because I think for resolution, transparency and detail, I think the LCD-5, if not on par, feels as though it could edge out Sasvara's a tiny bit. And the tuning plays a role in this. But if it does edge it out, it would be a very tiny amount, because the detail is actually in your face, and for Sasvara it's more of a natural presentation as part of the instrument. This is more laser focused, laser edged. The micro detail, dynamics and microdynamics of the LCD-5 is off the freaking charts. The slam on this headphone, the different variations between one instrument and another is very apparent. LCD-5 timbre is now, while the pads are broken in and the drivers are broken in, is okay, pretty good, especially with the DAVE. On Sasvara, it's God. On Atrium, it's heaven. So I would put LCD-5 below those two. Timbre has never been an AUDEZE thing, really. So frequency response wise, depending on the equipment you use, is quite varied on the LCD-5. It's a lot more easier to drive than Sasvara's. It's a lot more easier to get a good performance out of LCD-5 than Sasvara's. Definitely Atrium takes the cake on that. It can sound incredible on anything. Within limits. Obviously it scales up. But the way LCD-5 scales up on the right equipment and the level of performance it goes up to is absolutely shocking. It's been blowing my mind over the last 2 days. I think we've put about 200 hours on it, and finally everything's broken in now. It's funny because the Atrium provided the same situation where the last 2 days was the best of that headphone I heard. So why did I hate this originally? Well, originally I tried it on the benchmark DAC3B, and I don't think the drivers were quite broken in, and we do listen to equipment for a very long time here before we do reviews. Minimum 30 hours, but lately everything seems to have had over 50 hours to 200 hours on it before the review. They improve with break-in. They really do. So why did I hate it? Well, it was crushed sounding. Upper mid-range was a little bit too forward like the LCD XC. And timbre was really not that great. I kind of disliked it, like really actively disliked this headphone. And then my May arrived and things changed. I found up to the mid-mids all the way down to sub-bass, timbre was pretty damn good. But from the upper mid-range to the treble region, I found it awful, especially with hi-hats. Splashy, crunchy and not good. But in the last 2 days, that has changed too. Things are more tonally correct now. And I think those pads breaking in properly, they're really soft now, has made a big difference. Timbral information comes from the driver, from tuning, and from tonal balance. It's a unity of effort from all different aspects. And sometimes one variation from one area could actually tilt it slightly in favor of a bad to a good. But this has improved. So that was the problem. And when the DAVE arrived, this got even better because of the synergy and tonal balance of the DAVE. It's that pitch black background with illuminated stars in the sky sort of soundscape. It really does like something lush, something slightly musical. It's not a fan, the LCD-5, of AHB2 sort of sound signature, A90 for some of you who understand where that comes from. It's not a fan of that kind of characteristic. It likes the Ferrum-OOR. I think it's the best synergy I have found. Is it easy to drive? I've been driving it, walking around the house with this IFI Go Blue, and I've been getting wonderful results, especially in the mid-range. You don't get the slam and the sub-bass, you can't. That requires a lot of power and a lot of finesse. Treble region suffers on things like this, or the Griffin. IFI Go Blue or Griffin. It suffers a little bit because it can come across a little bit forward or a little bit too much energy, but put it on the OOR and on the DAVE, that goes away and you get a refined experience. So the best chain for this has been M-Scaler, Chord-DAVE, HoloAudio-Serene as the pre, Ferrum-OOR stack as the amplifier. That's the chain to push LCD-5 to its absolute limits. Does it deserve a chain like that? 100%. Does it deserve your money? This headphone? 1000%. Okay, let's discuss something. Why do some YouTubers say the LCD-5 is good with EQ, or you should EQ? I actively object against this mentality for the LCD-5, and here's my reasons why. If you listen to an LCD-5 on subpar equipment, or even just good equipment that's not synergized very well with this headphone, you might feel as though the frequency response is lacking, for example, in sub-bass. Or you might want to fill in certain aspects of the mid-range. I don't know why you would, but some people might want to. Or you might want to tame the upper mid-range. Or some people might want to bring the frequency response of the treble region down a bit because they think it's a little bit harsh. This is not due to the drivers or the performance of the LCD-5, I am telling you this now. There is no workaround this. It's the equipment you're using. You might feel as though the LCD-5 doesn't have enough of a slam, except when you put it on the right equipment like the DAVE's output stage into an OOR using a Serene as the pre. This, for me, has finally is on par, if not overtaking the Focal Utopia for that punch. And that's a very big statement to make. I will link down below a list of the tracks I have used this headphone to test with, so you can get an idea of all of this. Quite a few. I'll make a playlist and I'll put it down below so you can have a listen to all the tracks and apply everything I have said to this headphone according to those tracks. And then leave in the comment section what you'll think if you have LCD-5, what your experience has been, and what equipment you're running your LCD-5 on, and have you been getting the experience I have with a DAVE, or similar to it, or you think I might be wrong. I want to know. I want to hear from you. But running LCD-5 on that chain behind me like that, I'm telling you now, this is an endgame headphone, absolutely. And you can even dispense with a Zeospantera. You can push for a Zeospantera if you want. You can have a Zeospantera alongside it, I do. Is Zeospantera a better headphone than this? Yes, but not by much. Does the LCD-5 do things better than Zeospantera? Yes, it does. The ability to actually give you a bit of life. Zeospantera makes me tired after listening to it. It's an emotional ride that I would like to put down. But gazing into music with the LCD-5 on that stack I keep mentioning is a new experience all in of itself. Compared to the D8000 Pro, that headphone is wonderful. I think they trade blows in the upper flagship category because it's exceptional. I personally would pick the LCD-5 because of the comfort and design. It's too heavy, that headphone, for me. Do I take this over Atrium? It's a different experience. I would own Atrium and I think I would hope for LCD-5. Atrium is a lot easier to drive on simpler things. You don't have to spend a freaking mortgage on your chain. But you can get a good experience with LCD-5, it's just not the best. What I've been describing in this review has been on a freaking end of the game chain. So what are the caveats of this headphone? Let's discuss. Well, like I stated in the beginning, I am not happy with the out of inspection this. Not a happy bunny. This is a $4,500 pair of headphones. I don't want that. Also, a little bit of the mesh that covers the driver on the top grille here. I can feel, listen, feels as though there's a tiny little bit of hair sticking out. I don't like it. That should have been looked at and fixed immediately before it left the workshop. Not happy about that. Those are my two minor gripes for hardware. Accessories is pretty good, cable is pretty good, all that stuff's fine, warranty is all right, customer service is wonderful. The fact that you need to spend a magnitude amount of money to run this to its fullest potential, like a Zeospantera problem, is definitely apparent. It's easier to drive on other things. Yeah, you can have a good experience. You're not going to have the experience I've been talking about on an A90D90, trust me. Synergy is an issue with the LCD-5. You can go from hating this headphone to loving it. So that is a problem, and only your pockets can answer that question, honestly. And it's made me hope for a different chain, and that's a dangerous thing. This headphone is wonderful. So let's give out the scores. Build quality, comfort, design. I will give this 5 tigers immediately if I didn't have those QC issues that this unit's suffering. Please let me know if you got any QC issues with your LCD-5 down below so we can discuss. 4 tigers. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to knock a tiger off for that because this, where are you? Not happy. Not happy at all. But if that was fixed, 5 tigers out of 5, but for now 4. Comfort. Once the clamp loosens up and the pads break in, it takes a few weeks. So bear that in mind, please. 4 tigers out of 5, definitely. I think Empyrean and Zeospanteras are 5 tiger headphones for those. They're very comfortable. Sound quality, 5 tigers out of 5 immediately. Ease of use. I've been using it with a Go Blue, like I stated. Obviously not to its fullest potential, but I can. I can't do that with a Zeospantera, not in a million freaking years. 5 tigers out of 5. Using a cable like this from Double Helix. This thing, nice. Light, well, doesn't weigh anything. I think it must be like 60 grams or something. And you don't lose any of the resolution and performs ultra high. Ambush of tigers, come out. How many of you are we setting on poor running Gazelle? This headphone deserves 5 tigers in every aspect, but they've got QC issue to sort out. I am not going to be lenient. I can't be lenient. I wasn't lenient to Meze. I wasn't lenient to Zeospantera. I'm not going to be lenient to you, AUDEZE, but you've done such a good job. If I didn't have this issue, which I'm sad about, I don't want that in my $4,500 headphone. When you fix that, in the next revision of the LCD-5, when it comes in for review, we will readdress this. But for now, should you buy this? What the hell are you still doing here? You should have already put one in your basket. 4 solid tigers out of 5. Well done, AUDEZE. and congratulations. And thank you for going back to the drawing board, readdressing every issue we've had and fixing everything. I hope the manufacturing situation here improves. I'm not holding it against you. When you change your entire manufacturing process, such things happen. It's normal. They've been doing the LCD 4 and below category for 9, 10, 11 years. And a lot of new tools and a lot of new engineering and redesign has to be put in place to design this. So you get a pass from me for that. You do, where other manufacturers might not, because very few of them redesign their headphone from scratch. Looking forward to seeing you guys at CanJam. Look out for ConvinceMeAudio. Oh, and if you want reviews like this before anyone else, or jump into the private Telegram chat, consider joining Patreon. You don't have to though, it's okay. Just like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And tell me what you'd like to improve on the channel as well. I'm curious. And let me know what you have felt has improved on the channel as well. I'll speak to you soon. See you down in the comment section.